Where did he get shot?
Let's stand and have the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. It's a real privilege to call Jim Bergen, Senator Jim Bergen, to have our prayer tonight. Thank you so much for doing that, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for the opportunity to get together tonight, Lord, to just swear in new folks that will, Lord, just represent their citizens in this town and work for the community. And thank you for public servants. Lord, you have their heart and you direct their heart. And I pray your blessings and mercy and grace on them. And Lord, we just thank you so much for this holiday season, and especially sending your son, Jesus Christ. And we just ask that, Lord, everyone have a wonderful Christmas and have time to spend with their family, and we pray good health and just a time of rest and reflection on your son. So Lord, bless this night, bless everyone here, and we ask this in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I now call the meeting to order. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I made a motion.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I'm going to ask our clerk, Ms. Thornton, to now call the order for oath of office for two commissioners and the mayor.
First, we're going to do Mayor Jerry Medlin, and he will be sworn in by Senator Jim Bergen. If you'll just come to the front.
Janelle?
Mr. Mayor, if you will raise your right hand, it's an honor to be here with you tonight. I state your name,
Jerry M. Medlin,
do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are, may be established for the government thereof, and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
and I say, so help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Next will be Commissioner Maxine Holly, and she will be sworn in by Michelle Ball, Clerk of Superior.
I thought you were looking for Nikita. I'm sorry, I spoke too soon.
You there?
Yeah. Is she here?
Okay, you'll have to wait 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and
Go to the next.
okay. While we're waiting for Ms. Ball, we'll go ahead and do, Mr. Will Chandler, if he'll come up and his family, and I will swear in him. And if you'll just raise your left hand and follow and raise your right hand. I'm gonna say I, you state your name, I'll read everything, and you say so help me God. Ready? I
Will Chandler,
do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Is she on the way? Is she on the way?
Uh-huh.
Maybe her.
There she is.
Maybe not.
She had a swearing, another swearing. She's on, she said she'd be in 5 minutes.
We're waiting for the clerk of the Superior Court to come and swear in Miss Holly. Or clerk of the court, not Superior Court necessarily. Where did she go? We need to go ahead.
After this one comes back.
Probably need to take that one. Okay.
I'll take that one off.
You talking about Will Chandler?
Probably got it at the house.
It's probably gonna be in this drawer.
Got any masking tape? All right, you get me some masking tape, all right.
Apologize, we weren't ready to go.
I can see y'all.
Look sharp. You look sharp.
I am gonna go back and get my.
She's when you're applying.
You'll have to take them all off.
Yeah,
That's
it
right.
seems like right now, with these post up, I need to take them off, but
Yeah.
y'all are all blurred.
People always try it that way and they end up doing it.
Yeah, I just need to buy those, so I.
You can still take them off to read, but when you're going back and forth, it says,
Yeah,
Yeah, I got them. I can't see.
denier. He's a denier.
couldn't see anything on that chart.
I tell you what, I got the craziest thing
She's on the way.
ever in my office we do when we started 2 weeks ago.
Is there anything you can do before you
No.
be last?
No, because we
Just have to wait.
We're
She's
breaking
on her
it
way.
off the street. We're breaking it off the stroke. That's not what you expect me to say, is it?
did she know we were starting at 7?
Yeah, she had to come from Kimley. She's on 95. She'll be here. She's like coming through Falls. She'll be here.
Direction of the speed of the blood flow direction. Then it measures the elasticity of the artery. More hardened than the worst. Then it looks for microneedles. So basically you can tell. Everybody that's done about 30 of them so far. Yeah, they come up, one person has come up with a problem with the meter, water, and so the nuclear, she's 50-year-old lady. And so they can find it. And she says she's gonna have a memory all through that, so that's an example. Maybe we'll do to save a person's life or stroke, and maybe it'll do something that will prove that. It's crazy. That's what everybody does. I was so, even quick, I'll do it. The beautiful thing about this too is it gives us concentration in the eyes. The ophthalmic arteries, you can compare the blood flow from the left to the right. And if it's reduced in one, you take a tendency to develop glaucoma, and we can catch it early on. That was very powerful. And glaucoma is really a vascular problem. It's where the blood can't get pump through and get to the tissue because the pressure is too great for the blood. So it's crazy. Technology just keeps crazy. It's their plan B. It's their plan B.
Have you got her phone?
No, she called, she'll be here. She just got
You
it.
can't keep it with
Well, we wait for them, we can wait a few more minutes.
who?
I said, we can wait a few more minutes, can't we? She had to swear in someone in Henley. She's on 95, she'll be here.
Didn't worry about that, but I mean, like my wife's
Embarrassing.
I'm off on Friday, and I'm always open to go somewhere for 8 o'clock. You know, if I get up by 6 or yeah, every politician in the world for some reason wants to leave. I say, if it's just money, because I'm bored, I'm bored. They think I'm gonna give some kind of deal, you know, some kind of boost. I think that. Years, I tried it. Crazy. Time goes by so fast.
It does.
Okay, Angie. that's the way the court system works.
If y'all would, just come right up here.
Okay, we can do that, sure.
And read the camera.
Gotcha. Come right up here. You stand in the middle. Nikki, stand in the middle. You stand on the side, look at me. You hold that. All right. Put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. You want to repeat after me or say I do? Okay. Do you, Maxine Holly, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God. Congratulations.
We're now going to take a break for a little reception for the members that are coming in and the ones that's going out. So there'll be food in the kitchen, so anybody go and get it. Meeting back to order. We now are on the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Nomination and election of Mayor Pro Tem. That's something we don't have to do, but I'll just open the floor for anybody that wants to nominate somebody.
I nominate Cassandra Peacock Stack.
Who?
Cassandra.
Peacock Stack.
She's automatically still Mayor
I
Pro Tem.
know, but
if
I
we
can
don't
read,
elect somebody.
I can nominate her.
Okay. Somebody make a motion.
I make a motion, I make a motion we approve Cassandra Stack. Peacock Stack.
Okay.
Peacock Stack.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay. Public comments. I hope Jay Sharp is bringing us some good news on our audit this year. Come forward, Jay, and
Good evening. My name is Jay Sharp. I'm the partner in charge for the town's audit for 2021. So I've got a presentation to go through. Much like in prior years, there will be a three-part presentation. We'll talk about the audit proceedings, the results of the audit, and then we'll do some comparative analysis with the numbers for all three funds of the town. So we'll go ahead and get started for the night. Status of the audit. Fieldwork has been completed. The financial statements have been prepared, and they are currently with the Local Government Commission waiting approval before we can issue. I suspect based on what they've been approving, the approval rate, we should get an approval sometime late this week or early next week. It usually takes them 2 or 3 weeks to review and approve the town audit. So we should get that approval here shortly. But everything's done, we're just waiting for that, and we wrap everything up for 2021. A little background on the audit itself. We don't just come in here and start crunching numbers. There's some stuff we do ahead of time to kind of plan out the audit. This really determines what procedures we're going to conduct on an annual basis. Those procedures may change year in, year out. We don't do the exact same thing every year. And most of that regards internal controls. So we're going to get an update on our understanding of how internal controls work. And we will test some of those controls. For 2021, we tested controls over cash disbursements, over payroll, and over credit cards. And we'll talk about the results of that here shortly. But with all that information, we're going to continue with our risk-based audit approach to the town's audit. We're going to look at all the significant financial reporting areas of the town. We're going to concentrate on the higher risk areas, but we're going to look at every significant financial reporting area. We perform those audit procedures to obtain sufficient audit evidence to render an opinion. That's why you hire us, is to give an opinion on the financial statements. That opinion concentrates on whether the financial statements are materially correct or not. So, the results of the 2021 audit. Scope and timing of the audit were on track, no issues there. Like I said, it's at the Local Government Commission, just waiting final approval. I'm happy to report, once again, the town received a clean opinion on the financial statements, an unmodified opinion, which is the best possible opinion the town can receive, and should be the opinion the town strives for year in, year out. Findings. Happy to report, we had no material weaknesses or no significant deficiencies noted during audit procedures. So no findings, once again, for the town. We had some routine audit adjustments, and Kim gave us some additional adjustments during the audit process, but these are just routine things that we see every year. So kind of to summarize the results, clean audit opinion, no findings this year, once again, for the town. So good news all around regarding that. In addition, we have to issue a letter with the audit. It's a separate letter. We call it a communications letter. There's 4 major talking points with this letter. First of all, accounting policy changes. If there's any major accounting policy changes that affect the financial statements, we're required to let you know about that. There were none for 2021. One of the areas we look at in great detail are estimates. Some numbers are hard and fast numbers. Some numbers are estimates. The 2 key estimates for the town continues to be depreciation. Specifically, your depreciable lives of your capital assets, your buildings, your vehicles, your equipment, and the allowance for doubtful accounts. We looked at those estimates and they appeared reasonable, no issues there. I'm happy to report once again, no disagreements with management and no difficulties encountered whatsoever with the audit. Everybody gave us complete cooperation throughout the audit process. All right, now we're going to shift looking at the numbers for 2021 with some comparative analysis. First of all, we're going to take a look at the general fund. So this kind of shows your revenues and expenses for the last several years, going back to 2017. The good news is, once again, for 2021, the general fund showed a profit. You've shown a profit in the general fund for the last 6 or 7 years. So continue to trend in the correct direction. The general fund looks healthy. Once again, your revenues outpaced your expenses for 2021. And I kind of show that again. This is your general fund balance. And we're going to talk about a little bit more detail about that on the next slide. But this kind of shows you the trend of your fund balance for the last 10 years. Back in 2013, you were just below $2 million in overall fund balance. At the end of June 30th, 2021, $2.8 million in fund balance. So your fund balance has grown $800,000 over the last 10 years. So the good news, trending in the right direction. Looking at that fund balance in a little bit more detail. So it's broken down into 3 areas. The small piece of the pie here, the red, is restricted, specifically restricted for debt service. The blue is restricted by general statute. That's basically money that the town's owed. And general statutes say you can't spend money until you get it. And so that's why that's restricted until you actually receive those funds in. Most of it's due from other government agencies, specifically sales tax and other types of taxes. The largest piece of the pie here is your unassigned fund balance. This is what's available to spend by the town. It's at $1.9 million for 2021. Now, one of the things we do is always compare your unassigned fund balance to your expenses. What is that percentage? For 2021, that's 40%. That's a good number. LGC gets concerned if it goes below 8%. So, you're 5 times that. You're at 40% for 2021. So fund balance looks good, shows a healthy position for the town for 2021. Some other calculations we look at, looking at the financial health of the town, cash reserves. So what we're going to do here is look at your cash balances, and these are unrestricted cash balances because you do have some restricted cash balances. And we're going to compare it to your expenses. How long can you continue operating if you've got no more cash inflows? We generally recommend towns to have 3 to 6 months of cash reserves in place. You've been pretty steady throughout the years, but for 2021, you did jump. Back in 2020, you were at 131 days. You jumped to 151 days in cash reserves for the town. So that's good news. It shows a healthy cash reserve in place for the town. The next few graphs are going to kind of show some revenue analysis throughout the years and where you've come from. Most of these are about 10 years worth of data. Property taxes. So here you've seen a gradual increase going back to 2015 where you're just over $1.5 million in revenue from property taxes. For 2021, not much change compared to last year, about $20,000 jump, but still getting close to that $2 million range for your property tax revenue on an annual basis. Property tax rates have remained really consistent throughout the years. The graph looks a little bit more dramatic than it actually was. We've had very consistent property tax rates over the last 10 years, and they stayed the same for 2021 as 2020. Other taxes and licenses have a steady increase over the years, just a slight increase every year. Most of this represents sales tax and all your taxes that you get, but just a slight increase compared to 2020. But you've seen a steady increase throughout the years with your other taxes and licenses. Restricted intergovernmental, you saw a slight increase for 2021 compared to last year. That was due mostly to extra funds received by the town related to the pandemic. But you've been pretty steady over the last several years with your restricted intergovernmental revenues. And the next 2 graphs are going to concentrate on your expenditure breakdown. You actually spent the same as you did last year in order of where you spent all the funds for 2021. Your number 1 spot continues to be public safety at 44% for 2021. followed by general government, which is kind of the light blue there. And then you have cultural and recreational, which is 14% in the gray. And that's followed by, basically the other four areas are about the same. A little bit 1 or 2% difference there, but that's your transportation, your debt service, your environmental protection, and public works. But it really remains the same as last year, the same exact order. Public safety's first, general government's second. And the percentages may change year in, year out, depending on what's going on with the town, but they've been pretty steady throughout the years. All right, water and sewer fund. So, once again, looking at revenues and expenses for the last few years with your revenue, these are operating revenues and operating expenses. Now, back in 2019 and 20, you did have an operating loss for your water and sewer fund. For 2021, that turned around. You showed an operating income, and you've done that most of the years until 2019 and 20. So you've kind of turned things around with your water and sewer fund. That did show an operating income for the year. We look at cash reserves for your water and sewer fund also. These are a little bit lower. You're at 40 days for 2021. It did slightly go up. It's been pretty steady for the last 3 years. But you do, that's something to look at is your cash reserves and your water and sewer fund because they're kind of low. Like I said, we generally recommend 3 to 6 months, and you're at 40 days at the end of June 30th, 2021. Debt service. So this kind of details out how much you're paying in principal and interest over the years. That did go up for 2021. Just below $500,000 in debt service was paid out of your water and sewer fund. One of the more important numbers are operating cash flows. You want to have positive cash flows from what you're in the business of doing, operating the water and sewer fund. So for 19 and 20, you were negative in operating cash flows. And kind of goes back to what I was talking about, you had an operating loss, but you turned things around in 2021. You had a significant increase of operating cash flows and a good year overall for your water and sewer fund compared to the last 2 years. Finally, we're going to talk about the electric fund. Once again, looking at revenues and expenses, the electric fund's been pretty consistent. You've shown operating income 9 out of the last 10 years. Last year was the only year you had a loss, operating loss with your electric fund. But it rebounded for 2021 and showed a nice profit overall for operations for your electric fund. For the cash reserves, your electric fund's been pretty steady in increasing your cash reserves overall. You're at 80 days at the end of June 30th, 2021. But you see back in 2015, you only had 9 days in reserves. So the town's done a good job of increasing its cash reserves slowly and steadily throughout the years. And finally, debt service. You did take on some debt with your electric fund. I believe there's some capital leases a few years back. And so that's why that number, which was non-existent from 2014 to 2018, did have a slight increase over the last 3 years. And finally, operating cash flows. We talked about this in water and sewer fund. You've shown positive cash flows from operations with your electric fund each of the last several years. And a pretty nice increase in operating cash for 2021. Shows you your electric fund is financially healthy at the end of 2021. All right, with that, I'll be glad to take any questions you may have on the audit procedures, the results of the audit, or the numbers themselves.
A question, this doesn't relate to this audit, but the $22 million we've gotten for infrastructure usage over the next period of years, how is that going to affect some of the things that we look at in cash?
Yeah, it's going to depend on what they're specifically for and how they're coming into the town. And if they're restricted for specific uses, that won't have an effect on your cash reserves because we don't take restricted cash into effect, but they're just for general use by the town. And you get them, also depends on when you get those funds. And if you get a lot up front, obviously your cash balances will go up, and that will show a heftier cash balance. And it'll depend on what fund it's for. And if it's coming into the general fund, or if it's being allocated across the board with general fund, water and sewer fund, and electric fund. That's just a lot of things could happen depending on the purpose of those funds and when you receive them and how you're supposed to use them.
Well, it's held in the revolving fund until we ask for it. And if that being the case, I would not think it would do much to the charts. In other words, it wouldn't cause bubbles in places. Is that right?
That sounds about right, depending on, like I said, when you draw money down and what you use for it. If you use it over time, within 1 year. Like I said, timing's always critical with some of these, whether there's restrictions placed on those funds or not.
As far as I'm concerned, we can celebrate over what's here. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it was a good financial year. Like I said, water and sewer fund, it rebounded. The electric fund continues to be steady, and your general fund continues to be steady. As I said, overall, the town's overall financial health is very good. There's no issues there that we saw.
Does anybody have any questions for Jay? Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Good report. Go sleep good tonight. We will.
Good.
Fred, you gonna introduce the new hires?
I don't see that we have any of the new hires that we have listed here. We had welcomed aboard our customer service reps, Diana Diaz-Pasos and Brandy Hampton, and Adam Woodall came on as public service specialist, and we're looking forward to working with them a good while.
If anyone wishes to address the board or ask to come and provide their name and their address and take 3 minutes. Anyone wants to come forward now. No one coming forward. We're moving on. Is there any questions from the commissioners about the department reports that we got this time? I appreciate the department heads that put these together, because I look at them and you get a lot of good information about what's going on for those. So we appreciate the ones that put them together. We now are at the public hearing for FY 2021 Community Development Block Grant Cdbg Program. Kimberly Pickett.
So we are going to have a public hearing on the Cdbg sewer rehabilitation project. This is just like last time, so bear with me. I have to read all this stuff before we go into the public hearing. The purpose of this memo is to summarize the Cdbg program for the town's 2021 Community Development Block Grant Infrastructure Program being presented for adoption at the Town Board of Commissioners meeting. The purpose of the public hearing is to clarify the project area for the project and allow residents an opportunity to express their views for the fiscal year 2021 Community Development Block Grant for the Infrastructure Project, Cdbg Grant number 20-1-3602. In April 2021, the town was awarded a total of $1,998,764 in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, CDBGI funds, from North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality Division of Water Infrastructure, with fiscal year 20 funds for planning costs up to release of funds, grant milestone, and pending North Carolina budgetary approval forthcoming fiscal year 21 funds for construction after the release of the funds. As part of the funding application process, a public hearing was conducted in November of 2020 describing the CDBG program. A few street names were unintentionally incorrectly listed in the project description at that time. Therefore, a condition to proceed is to clarify the project area and distinguish between priority and alternative project areas. This project will include closed-circuit television inspection and rehabilitation replacement of up to approximately 20,242 linear feet of 6 to 8 inches diameter aging deteriorated gravity sewer line, along with associated manholes, point repairs, service reconnections, and related apparatuses. This project will improve local public and environmental health by eliminating inflow and infiltration and reducing the possibility of sanitary sewer overflows that flow into local tributaries and surface waters. Overall, project activities will take place primarily in low, moderate income residential areas with the worst sewer line conditions. The project area has a population that is at least 51% LMI, and therefore 100% of the CDBG funds will be used to benefit LMI persons. I'm almost done. The priority project includes portions of the following areas: North Augusta Avenue, South Augusta Avenue, Brooklyn Street, West Church Street, North Farmer Street, West Harnett Street, West Hill Street, North Lincoln Street, West Martin Street, North McLean Street, South McLean Street, West Pierce Drive, South Pine Street, North McKinley Street, South Ryle Street, and North Wall Street. If favorable construction bid prices are received, the alternative project area may also include portions of West Main Street. This segment will be surveyed to determine the level of LMI residents of this street to determine eligibility for inclusion in the final project. Compared to other streets in the overall project area, West Main Street has the least amount of LMI households. While the town wishes to serve as many residents as possible due to CDBG requirements to benefit LMI residents, priority areas must be those with the maximum benefit to LMI residents within the available budget. The town does not discriminate based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, handicap, age, familial status in the admission, access to treatment, or employment in the CDBG program activities. Efforts will be made to minimize displacement during project implementation, and applicable utility easements and displacement assistance as necessary will be available. Persons with disabilities, limited English proficiency, or who otherwise require special accommodations should contact Town Hall at 919-894-3553. Comments should be postmarked no later than December 17, 2021, and a written response will be made within 10 business days. Public grant documents are available at Town Hall upon request between the hours of 9 and 4. All Town Hall visitors are to comply with federal, state, and local coronavirus guidelines. For additional information or to submit written comments, please contact Fred Nelson, Town Manager, at P.O. Box 69 or 303 East Church Street, Benson, North Carolina 27504. This information is available in Spanish or any other language upon request. Please contact Town Clerk Angela Thornton at Town Hall for accommodations. Okay, that's it. So you can open the public hearing.
We are required to read the content of this that was written by Withers Raphael. And now we will open up a public hearing for the public that's here. Anyone that has interest or wants to make comments in favor, come forward now. Anyone that wants to have comments in favor, come forward now. Now, anyone that is opposed, come forward. Anyone that is opposed, come forward. Having no one come forward, we close the public hearing. Do we have to vote on this tonight? No? Okay. All right. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
We're now on case RZ 2021-10. Is 10 first? Come forward, young lady.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I would like to present to you two hearings this evening. The first is a rezoning request, and the second is a special use request. The applicants are the same, but we'll need to address the rezoning first and then address the special use, specific use at the particular site. So the rezoning involves two parcels within the corporate limits of the town of Benson, approximately 3.13 acres, located on North Johnson Street. The property owners are Ann and Roland Wood. Currently, the two parcels are zoned B2 neighborhood business, and the there. The parcel that is identified as number 1 currently does have some existing uses on it. In fact, it has a light manufacturing operation that will address under the special use permit. The second lot is currently vacant and unimproved. This site would be served by the town of Benson utilities. So currently, like as I stated, the parcels are zone B2, our neighborhood business, which is geared towards low intensity commercial uses designed to serve the immediate neighborhood. And the B3 district is designed to serve a larger portion of the community. You typically see them B3 zonings on minor or major thoroughfares into the town. Our future land use map and plan has identified these 2 sites as appropriately as commercial. And that's identified on our previous plan when this petition was submitted, as well as on our newly adopted future land use map and comprehensive land use plan that was adopted in November. Just to give you an idea of the site and the surrounding area as well. So you do have commercial uses predominantly surrounding this area, and there, and as well as the zoning district is predominantly commercial B2. You do have one small parcel that is currently zoned I2 light industrial, but it actually has a single family residence on it. So you do have Parks and Recreation that's just south to the site, going back into town. You have North Wall Street right there at the intersection of North Johnson Street. You'll see at the top right-hand corner of the site, that's the Benson Middle School. And then you have the Wood Pharmacy just in front of parcel number 1. Then across on North Wall Street, you have predominantly residential development. So some of the uses that are found within the B3 district are child care center, nursing home, technical trade, office, and retail. In your staff report, you have a little more detail and comparison of what's allowed in the B2 versus the B3. And so, for instance, single-family dwellings are not allowed in either district. Office general is allowed in both. Limited or light manufacturing is allowed with a special use permit in the B3, but that use is not allowed in the B2 district. And also similarly, the land use classification compatibility, when you're looking at the future land use map, that those uses mirror as well. And so you have park, open area, both allowed in those commercial districts. Places of worship is allowed with a special use permit in the B3 district, not allowed in the B2 district. And warehouse, freight, manufacturing, vehicle repair and sales are not allowed in the B2, but they are allowed in the B3 district. So when you're looking at this rezoning, it's a general rezoning, and you're looking at all of the uses that could potentially go within that zoning district over one specific use. The planning board did review this last week at their meeting, and they voted unanimously that this request is consistent with the adopted plans and policies of the town, as well that it would be reasonable and in the public interest to rezone this site. Staff's analysis of this request states that it is the proposed zoning implements the comprehensive land use plan. It is consistent. It is consistent with goal number 3 of the comprehensive plan, and that is to increase economic development by attracting and retaining businesses that provide locally desirable goods and services. The impact would be reasonable, as you do have commercial sites that are surrounding that area, as well as your proximity to North Wall or US Highway 301, which is a major corridor into the town. There would not be a case for spot zoning, as you do have commercial uses surrounding that area, and it supports that development trend of further commercial uses. And so, based upon our approval criteria, you'll look at these 8 criteria and determine whether they are consistent. And that's how you want to base your decision this evening. This is a legislative hearing, so anyone that would like to speak in favor of the request, they do not need to be sworn in. They just need to state their name and address for the record. They'd like to speak in favor or opposition. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody on the board have questions of Aaron? Okay. I open the public hearing. Anyone that's in favor of this plan, come forward. This is RZ 2021-10.
Hello, my name is Anthony Wood. My home address is 1300 Woodley Road in Four Oaks, and I'm located on the 1302B North Johnson Street. Small business there, which we'll get to with the special use permit. When we set up, we were not aware that we weren't zoned properly, so I'm in favor of the rezoning for the business that we're currently running there. So, and the 3 employees that I have. So,
Does anybody have any questions?
anybody got any questions?
Yeah, I want to ask you,
Yes.
are you located on 301? Your business, where are you located?
Right on the edge of Johnson Street, just off of 301, behind Wood Pharmacy.
Right where the old hog market used to be, that lot, right there, that C in Blackman Hall.
Oh, okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Anyone else that's in favor, come forward if you want to be heard.
I'm just switching microphones.
No one else coming forward in favor. Anyone that wants to come forward that is opposed, come forward now. Anyone that is opposed, come forward. No one's coming forward. Close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion that we approve this. I had been out and looked at it, and I had talked with, before this happened, he's established, he's already employing people, and they own all the property that adjoins them, and the few homeowners that are around, therefore, him starting his business or continuing his business with other businesses coming in. So I really think that that it's kind of a no-brainer. They're already doing what needs to be done there.
Okay, if you want to make a motion.
I make a motion, we approve.
You just
According
want
to the statement.
To the statement that it is
Just
consistent.
read that.
The Board of Commissioners adopts a statement of
Consistency.
consistency and determines that cause number RZ 2021-10 is consistent. Is that all you need?
With adopted plans and policies, objectives of the town is reasonable and in the public interest, hereby granting approval.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Got it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
Thank you. All righty. So the next case, the special use, which is a quasi-judicial proceeding, so anyone wishing to address the board will need to be sworn in this evening and present evidence and testimony based upon the findings of fact that are competent and relevant to this particular request. So we're looking at just one of the parcels here, this triangle piece that is identified on the screen. Applicant, same applicant and property as the rezoning 1302B North Johnson Street. As it's been stated before, the property owners, they had existing structures on the site, did not know what the land use designation was and what they could and could not. So they have been in business for over a year now with the light manufacturing. So we just really want them to go through the proper steps and the proper approvals to obtain and to give you all the opportunity to weigh in on that actual use. And so they are requesting a special use permit for light manufacturing, specifically a carpentry or cabinet making business at this site. Again, surrounding uses and zoning are commercial, B2, predominantly B2. You do have some civic uses to the right, to the south of the site with the Parks and Recreation with the town of Benson. Have some commercial that fronts the property with Woods Pharmacy, a single-family residence that's adjacent just to the front of that site as well. But however, it is zone I2, and don't believe anyone is residing there at this time. So I would like to ask the board to accept the applicant's packet and staff report into the record as evidence for this request.
I'll entertain a motion to accept it into the 2 minutes.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay.
Just to kind of give you an idea of the surrounding area, again, with the commercial uses, you do have right at the intersection of North Wall and North Johnson Street, Kelly's Tavern, Fueling Station. Going further south or north on North Wall, you have Johnson County Public Schools, the middle school, and then the town of Benson, Parks and Recreation, Woods Pharmacy, and then you do have some residential, multifamily residential going back south into town and single-family development across on Wall Street. So this location is supports commercial activities. This is the site plan that the applicant has submitted. They did, per our ordinance, they did schedule and send out letters to the adjacent property owners to conduct a neighborhood meeting. However, there was some miscommunication about the date of it. So what we instructed the property owner and the applicant to do is to reach out individually. There were not that many adjacent property owners, and submit that in their packet. So you do have that information regarding the neighborhood meeting. And this is their site plan. The buildings are existing except for the storage and the shed building. So that would further, depending on the size and when they do add those buildings, would require either administrative or planning board site plan approval. But the way you see it today, they do have their shop and their office space on the site at this time. The 4 findings of fact this evening include that the application will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plans as submitted. The application meets all required specifications and conforms to the standards and practices of sound land use planning. That the application will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting properties. The application will not adversely affect the adopted plans and policies or violate the character of existing standards of development. Again, the planning board did review this and held a preliminary hearing last week and
voted unanimously to recommend approval upon staff review. We agree that this, recommend approval for this particular special use permit.
Ike, do you have any special evidentiary hearing procedures that you want to bring forward?
I think the board, although we've got a new member tonight, but that new member is probably somewhat familiar from days on the board in the past. Just remember that any evidence that you're going to consider has to be relevant, competent. If there's anyone that wants to testify, claiming that they have standing, we may get into, I don't probably expect that, but for form's sake tonight, I'll say, I'll get into the questioning of them myself about whether or not they have standing to cross-examine any witnesses that want to come up and offer any testimony. So just remember that you have to base, the biggest thing you always want to remember in a quasi-judicial hearing, even one like tonight that's probably not going to have anybody in opposition, is that you just base your determination applying the findings applied to the findings of fact based on the evidence that you hear at the meeting tonight. You're not to bring in any sort of outside information or evidence. If there's any outside communications that you've had, it's a good point at this time before we get into the meat of the hearing or the public hearing phase to disclose if there's been any ex parte communications with any party or anybody else about this application. But just remember to base your determination tonight on the evidence that's presented, not anything from outside the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Just be known that the testimony must be given under oath, so anyone that comes forward will be sworn, and the clerk will swear them in, and then they can make their statement. So I'm asking now that the staff shall give their report, the one that's presenting the case, come forward and give the positive part.
Well, I just presented my staff report, and it's been entered in the record as evidence, so if you have any questions for me, I can answer them.
Okay.
Make sure that at this point, why don't, if there's any questions for Aaron, before you ask any questions, go ahead and swear Aaron in.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. And then the next step, Mr. Mayor, I think would be, I think that's what you're tending towards here now. After Aaron completes her part, then you can have the applicant, obviously in favor of the measure of the special use permit, to come and present their case and be sworn if they're not represented by counsel, which I don't think they are.
Okay.
I do.
I did.
I did. Aaron
Now
Joseph.
the applicant can come forward and, or their representative, and present their case.
And you got my 303. Yes. You got it.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And just state your name and address again for the record.
Anthony Wood. My home address is 1300 Woodley Road in Four Oaks, and I'm currently located and running the cabinet shop at 1302B North Johnson Street here in Benson. So it's just a small cabinet shop. We've been there for about 3 years. We were not aware of any zoning issues, and currently we got 3 employees, and we're staying pretty steady. We're lining up for more work next year, and things are running. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Anthony, this plan that we saw, is this an add-on that is gonna, any part of that's gonna be added on to what you've already got?
The main shop and the buildings, a lot of that was there. We did add an additional storage building about a year ago, and then the office is actually a new. It's not even hooked up. It's just been hauled in. It was purchased And then we found out about this, but we had to move it from the property that it was on, so it's just sitting on blocks, and it will be hooked up through Duke and tied in eventually, you know, if everything goes.
Well, this facility of yours that's already in operation, will you have bathrooms in the new section?
Yes, it's to add, that, the main reason is to add an office, to get my office out of the main shop area for dust purposes.
Well, I was looking at bathroom and I didn't see one on your plans, but I knew where y'all were having to go to the bathroom over at Woods Pharmacy
Yes.
at this time, and I was hoping that was part of
It will.
of this.
That's why we had the lines pulled in for the water and sewer.
Yeah.
We're gonna hook bathrooms up in the office area for the business.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other applicant want to come forward and have anything to say? Having no one else come forward, is there anyone that wants to come in opposition to this case? Does anybody want to come in opposition? No one else coming in opposition? We're going to move forward to the commissioner's inquiry. If the commissioners ask any questions they want to.
Well, I would just like to say, I don't see why we just don't go on with the vote. It sounds to me like they have been in operation for 3 years. It's just a matter of us confirming what they have been doing. So I'm ready to move on.
I am too. I do know that they own all the surrounding property, so there's not going to be an issue with anything coming up and them wanting to put a trailer on it to live out of. That won't happen. That won't happen with this plan that they have got, and we're going to get utilities off this, and also we've got some more commercial property right here that is a taxable issue, and that's what we need to look at.
All right, thank you. I was just advised from our town attorney, just to make it clear for the record, that based upon the findings of fact, that the evidence presented based upon the findings of fact, that it does meet those findings of fact. So we just want to make sure we get that on the record, and you can have that in the motion that you'll make.
Okay.
I entertain a motion.
I make a motion that the Board of Commissioners finds that the findings of fact have been met and approves SUP 2021-01 to allow light manufacturing for the operation of cabinet manufacturing. Allow it twice.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. No old business. We're going down to the police advisory, the planning, and the museum. The committees to approve these advisory boards. So I think what we'll do is take them one at a time and take the police advisory commission. There's three, there's 5 openings, but there's only 3 candidates. Is that right?
No, this is for police. The police will be full.
So you have 3 openings.
Yeah.
So
Everybody on here, there's all openings. We will still, even with planning, and Tyler's gonna advertise it some more with planning, even with these new members, we're still gonna have a resident and an ETJ open. All of the, advisory boards have vacancies except for police. The police will be full, but, so, you know of anybody?
Have they not been advertised?
Yes, ma'am, it's been advertised. It was advertised in August, since August.
Well, maybe we might need to do it again.
Well, Tyler's gonna re-advertise it, so we see if we can get somebody else in.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the three applicants for the Police Advisory Committee.
I make a motion we approve the three applicants for the Police Advisory Commission.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Under planning, Carolyn Lambert, Jean Casanov, Cody Peden.
I make a motion we approve the planning advisory board appointment.
In the planning?
Yeah.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Museum, Gordon McClam. Loretta Bird, no, yeah, Museum, Gordon McClam, Loretta Bird, and Pam Holland.
I make a motion we approve.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Parks and Rec, Janelle McCain, resident. I'll entertain a motion.
I thought she had already been approved.
She was approved for,
Finish her, the term, so she has to be reappointed for the new term.
I make a motion we approve Janelle McCain.
any other questions? All in favor say aye. Approved, opposed, no. Now, Kimberly Pickett, budget.
Good evening. I'm here to present to you the October financials. At the end of October, we should be at 33%. Closing out the month, we were at 32.22% revenues and 41.95% expenditures. If you have any questions, I'm open to take them.
Is that all of them?
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we approve.
Any other comments? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Discussion on police recruitment and retention. Fred Nelson.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. As you all are aware, we've been having some difficulty recruiting and retaining our police officers. Given that, Chief Percy had brought forward a proposal that we talked over with HR and with our finance director over several times. With that, Chief has developed a PowerPoint that I'd like for him to share with you, and then we can talk about any peripherals. I think he did a great job pulling together all of the points that we discussed and then some. So I'd like for him to present that to you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, we're here tonight to discuss an issue that is affecting law enforcement agencies on a national, state, and local level, and that is recruitment and retention of police officers. The following slides will examine what we're seeing locally and offer our suggestions for trying to correct that issue for our department. Currently, the police department has allotted 16 full-time positions. Only 14 are filled, and that number fluctuates month to month, year to year. We rarely have a full staff of officers. During 2021, we had 5 officers resign, primarily for employment with other agencies, and during 2021, we were able to hire 4 officers. One we got from Urban Police Department. We got a BLET graduate in June. We got a Harnett County Sheriff's deputy in August, and we did 1 rehire of a former Benson officer in November. Each time an officer is hired and onboarded, it costs us approximately $2,500. Uniforms, equipment, testing, and assorted expenses. And each time an officer resigns, we have to make a lump sum payment for their vacation time that they've accrued. So turnover for us is a significant cost expense. We've had advertisements posted probably continuously for the last year or so because like I said, we're constantly running a vacancy. So far, we've had a few inquiries from different officers from agencies and stuff. We're trying to go after the lateral officers as best we can, the ones with experience, because they can help us immediately as opposed to an officer that's fresh out of BLET. We've had a few inquiries, but we haven't had any applications that were turned in. Cops Officer Lasada and I went to Johnson Community College back in October and tried to recruit to the class that was currently in basic law enforcement training then. And we learned that 9 of those students walked in the door with a job in hand. Since that time, the remaining officers have either accepted employment or are in the process of hiring with an agency, so we can't even appeal to them. They're already hired. We also advertise for our police trainee position, which is where we hire a candidate and pay them a salary and pay for their schooling at Johnson Community College. We had 4 applications that were turned in, and of those, we deemed one was worth pursuing. Right now, we're having issues getting qualified candidates just coming to the door. I took a look at the salaries in the county using the available budget numbers that from JOCO report. And as you can see, right now, our starting salary is 5th in the county. We're slightly behind Selma PD and slightly above Mike Road. Clayton comes in at number 1 and Smithfield comes in at number 2. We probably won't ever be able to match them, but we need to at least be close. So, in our discussions with the manager and the assistant manager and human resources, we came up with a proposal to implement a 5% pay increase to starting salary effective January 1st. That 5% will put us at number 3 in the county probably until July, until the next budget cycle comes in. With that 5% increase, it will also be necessary to increase other salaries as well to minimize the compression that takes place within our ranks. And our calculations show that it'll cost approximately $11,500 for the final 13 pay periods of this current fiscal year. The second proposal is an additional incentive, which will be the first that I know of in Johnston County. Now, it's happening in other places in the state, and it's happening in other industries and also nationwide. But for us, as far as I know, it would be the first time assigning bonuses is implemented for a law enforcement agency in our county. My proposal is a $2,500 bonus. $1,500 would be due at the beginning of their employment. $1,000 would be due once they complete their first 12 months. That ties them in for at least a year. In exchange for the bonus, the officer will be required to sign an agreement to remain with the police department for 24 months, 2 years. In the event that the officer leaves prior to completing that term, reimbursement of any bonus paid and our employment expenses will be due to the town at 100% for the first year, 75% for 12 to 16 months, 50% for 16 to 20 months, and 25% for 20 to 24 months. If they leave prior to the end of that 24 months, they're going to have to reimburse the town for what we've put into it. And if we use these bonuses for our 2 vacant positions, it would total $3,000 in this fiscal year and $2,000 in the next fiscal year. The last proposal is another employment agreement, but this is for police trainees, the ones that we send to school. Any applicant that is selected for the trainee position would also be required to sign a 2-year commitment to work for the police department. They would not receive a sign-on bonus because they're, in my opinion, they're getting their bonus up front because we're paying for them to go to school and also paying their salary. In the event that they do not graduate BLET, they have to reimburse 100% of our expenses for training and for salary. And then once they transition into a full-time officer position, if they leave prior to completing their 24-month term, they have to reimburse the training and employment expenses at 100% for 0 to 12 months, 75% for 12 to 18 months, and 50% for 18 to 24 months. So there too, they're also tied to the town. This is not a new problem. We've been dealing with it for years. It's just become more drastic, I would say, in the last couple of years, primarily due to COVID and police reform movements and such. So we racked our brain, and we've already come up with some recruiting efforts that were not financially necessarily motivated. With your approval, we expanded to take on vehicle range to 30 miles. We have a new modernized appearance policy where, for the first time, we're allowing visible tattoos. We've invested in equipment for officers, new laptops, new rifles, and an update to our uniform for more durability and a friendlier appearance. We've expanded the path for advancement with the creation of our career progression plan. And lastly, we are proposing additional areas for specialization with the creation of a bicycle patrol team and potentially a traffic safety officer contingent upon receiving grant funding for that. So we're trying to give them different areas that they can go after and not just be a patrol officer, you know, for 5 years until they can move up to sergeant. And finally, as I said, the issues in recruiting and retaining officers is being experienced nationally, and we're not exempt, you know, from the struggle. Continually functioning while shorthanded places stress on the agency because the officers are being required to work extra shifts to cover for the openings, and also the police department is having to pay overtime when they do. So we're being stretched financially as well. The effects of the growth and development in our community is only going to make these issues worse. So while the pay increase, the sign-on bonus, and the employment agreements are a short-term solution, we need additional staffing to deal with the long-term reality. According to national standards, the 10-year average for officer-to-population ratio is 2.38 per thousand residents, and the 20-year average is 2.29 per thousand residents. Currently, we sit at 1.96 per thousand residents, without accounting for the population growth that's coming from the new subdivisions and the other development. When the 200-plus homes come in, we're going to be even further behind. So a minimum of 2 additional officer positions are going to be needed to address the growth that's taking place in our town. And it's my intent to coordinate with Mr. Nelson to request those 2 additional positions in the upcoming budget. And that's our proposal to address the issue that we're facing right now with recruitment and retention.
So Chief, I know it says proposal, but do you want all 3 of these? Because
well,
because I'm thinking if you do one, then I guess I'm a little confused.
Number 3, the employment agreements is pretty much a wash. We're going to do that anyway.
Okay.
Number 1 and number 2, the bonus and the pay increase is something we would like to see as a package.
Because I was just trying to see how can you do one without the other, because with number 1, that's not really going to affect the new officers without doing without doing number 2. Okay.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
so
Ideally, we would like to see number 1 and number 2 adopted.
Okay. Now that makes sense. I'm like, am I missing something here?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not understanding either, but it's the salary increases for existing officers.
Yes, sir. The
And
salary
number 2 is
increases
for
are
new people that are lateral hires.
yes,
and
sir.
number 3 is for newbies.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Salary increases are for our existing staff. The bonuses are for, and not all staff, just line officers primarily. The bonuses are to attract new officers to the department, and then the employment agreements are for any new officer that comes in or any trainee that we send to school.
So I have one thought about it, just, this is maybe not here or there, but let's say that how much does training at BLE2 cost? Ballpark?
If they complete the entire 17 weeks, it's about $11,000.
Okay, so what if I take it and you guys pay $11,000 for me, and I work a month and realize I'm old, and I go back to iDotter, and what if I say I ain't got no $11,000?
We taking you to court. Ain't that right, Kyle?
That is
Talking about, the way it's happened, you're gonna say you owe me that money back. You're gonna tell them that. And they've agreed to it.
The BLET is where we're forced to go if we're not paying the salaries to get already qualified officers.
Well,
I had no idea it was $11,000.
Yes, sir.
So it's more or less a retention plan that you're trying to put in place?
It's both, it's recruitment and retention.
Just out of curiosity, if you had 10 students that went into BLET, what's the pass-fail rate?
The most recent class, if I'm not mistaken, started with 25 and graduated 17.
That's pretty big.
So those eight, did they lose $11,000 or did they get kicked out before they got too far?
I can't answer that question. I don't know the dynamics of it.
Yeah, they were with other agencies, so we don't know what they're.
And we've sent some of the officers
Yes.
currently you have through the BLET and paid them and everything,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Correct.
All you gotta do is watch the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Durham lost 34 officers this year. Last number I had from Raleigh, they were 80 short. And I'm sure they're paying more than we are. And
Fayetteville PD came out last week with a $6,000 bonus plus a moving reimbursement allowance. Everybody's struggling to get officers.
Yeah, you gotta make it look attractive.
Yeah.
Well, the occupation itself is becoming you don't have them. It's just that simple, and they're not sticking. And I can understand that for pay and other reasons. I mean, it's just a sticky situation right now. I am in favor of the retention program. I really am, because I think it's important that your citizens get to know your officers. And when they are going and coming like we have here, they don't know who's who.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just don't think that's good.
It takes time to build a cohesive team, and with people coming and going, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
Maybe I'm just misunderstanding the math too, so help me understand this, but it seems like that we'd be better off to raise our salaries to number one in the county than it would be to pay somebody $11,000 that might not work out.
Well, my first choice would not be to send somebody, because that freezes a position for like 6 months. We really get no benefit from them work-wise. But if that's the route we have to take, that's where we have to go.
And I can't stress the burnout that all employees are facing, but that our officers are facing. And if we're sending a position, I've talked to Greg and said, you know what, we need 2 additional positions right now. Because if we send 2 students to BLET, what happens if the officers of our dreams walks through the door? We got nothing for them. While we're waiting 6 months, that hopefully the officer gets out of BLET, and hopefully when he comes to work for us, he decides to stay 2 years. Hopefully he doesn't get a job offer for $5,000 more where he strokes us a check for $1,000 and says, see you guys later. That's what we're fighting. At some point you got to get to the root of the cause.
Well, in that field, it's going to be tough to do. This is a Band-Aid, and I think we need the Band-Aid, but all it's good for is through July.
Yep.
Indeed.
Okay, you look at our budget right up there, 49% of the budget went to public safety. Okay, what is public safety? That's police, fire, rescue is countywide now.
Right.
We pay a different tax for them countywide. I'm not saying that we're in the ballpark, but now I know of one incident that happened last week, that they had a girl with a 4-year degree and 1 year of training hired. And the day before she was supposed to start to work at $38,000 a year, she got $48,000 in Clayton, and that's where she's working at right now. It happens day in and day out, and it's across the board. We've got firemen right now that are on City of Cary, City of Raleigh, these big departments that are paying money. They are looking to do other things, and some of them are just counting out the days until they can retire. They had 4 years ago 300 in training. Last year I think they had 35, and that is you're putting the money into them to train and then hoping that they will come to work for you. It's just, it's like volunteers now. That's no longer.
Yeah, it's a different
Everything's a
time.
paid thing, and y'all were, I don't know how to get out of it. If y'all would come up right now and say, hey, we're gonna pay $50,000 a year for a new officer to come in. Every officer that you have got that's been here 4 or 5 years, you're gonna have to give him a 10% raise too, because he's not making $50,000 a year. You're gonna have to shoot everything up. And then you're not guaranteed with what the sheriff's departments are begging. SBI right now, you get an officer in here and they can go to the state and not put up with the mess that y'all have to put up out on the streets.
Right.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. You've got to do something. I don't know if the signing bonus is the way to go. I think y'all are going to be one of the first to try that.
Yeah.
McDonald's, look where it got them. Nowhere. They're still closing up at 9 o'clock.
Well, I'll say this, a lot of our recent hires, we put a lot of thought into trying to find the right fit for Benson.
Yeah.
And I would dare say we've probably had more wins than losses. Now, do we still lose people? Sure. But I think we're slowly building a team that is committed to staying here. We try to find the people that are content to work and not have bigger advancement goals like going to the SBI, or some other state agency. They're happy working in a small town because we make it look attractive to them, and it is. It's not a hard sell, but if you have bigger goals than municipal law enforcement, there's not a lot you can do. We just lost one to the highway patrol, and there's nothing I can do to stop that. That's what he wanted to do, but we're trying to pick and choose.
Commissioner Miller, I'm glad you mentioned the fire service. Last week, Chief Johnson, Assistant Chief Bird, Ms. Pickett, and I toured quite a few of the fire departments in the county. Because what we're seeing happening with our fire department, preparing for the future. We went to one of the larger departments in the county that is at the higher end, I would say, the highest end of paying their firefighters and engineers. I think they said they had 7 positions that they were hiring for, 53 applicants. Not all those applicants were great. Some were no call, no show for the interview, but they had 53 applicants. We went to quite a few other fire departments that were on the lower end of the pay scale. They would have 3 positions open and maybe get 4 applicants and not be able to get everybody in for an interview. So at the end of the day, you hate to say it's about money, but it's about money. What Greg's talking about, the culture that we provide here, I don't think you'll find a better place to work in this county than you will right here in Benson, North Carolina.
Chief Percy has developed a great team. They work well together. They even pick on each other, which is a good sign.
But if we can't get them in the door, it doesn't work.
If I may.
Well, if you can't keep them in the door, it's not gonna work. That's the problem.
What I'd like to point out is what Chief and Scott have both said, that we need 2 additional positions now in terms of trying to at least recruit. We'd like to see the proposals that have been laid before you, proposal 1, 2, and 3, approved, as well as a discussion, at least, of what Commissioner Rayner just brought up about being number 1 in terms of bringing on officers from the 41,000 that we're talking about to the 43, was it, that Smithfield is doing? If I saw that correctly. And so all that just to point up, Mayor and Commissioners, that we are, yes, 43 forward. We're losing ground from one half a year to the next half a year, let alone 1 year to the next. And so we'll be coming back in July even with a bit more meat to put on the bone so we can attract more officers and even fill in some gaps in other departments. But for right now, if you could consider approving what has been laid before you this evening, I think we can get started at least on trying to make the apple shine a bit brighter.
What's the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve all three.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ayes have it. All three.
Thank you all.
If I can back up a little bit and get clarification from the board on the other two positions that were mentioned in the PowerPoint, as well as from our HR director.
So what are you talking about, hiring 2 new officers to?
We have 2 vacancies, if I remember correctly, but another 2 as well to advertise and bring on as many as we can now, because we see the growth already. And if that winds up being one BLET candidate or 2, at least we'll have some time to get them trained and bring them on before we actually see people going in houses around town.
So instead of 2, we're adding 2 new positions to the roster.
Yeah.
And so we can hire 4, essentially.
So does that fit in our budget? What we're gonna have to do?
It does till July.
Yeah, it does till the end of the year.
I make a motion that we do that.
Thank you.
Do what?
Huh.
Do what? We
Hire
already
the
approved
4.
1, 2, 3.
No, to hire 4. New
Yeah, that was
officers.
an add-on.
2, they have 2 vacancies.
You got 2 vacancies, but if you add 2, huh?
Change you're increasing the roster is what you're doing.
By 2.
So you have to,
And you would increase the budget how much, because the other 2 are not counted in the budget, correct?
Correct.
So how much would be not in the budget? So about 90,
At 41, half of 41, 20 and a half, so what, about 42?
so yeah, because, okay, yeah, we're at half a year.
Yeah, and just as an aside, our, in the most recent financial report you received, you'll see that police salaries are right on track so far. And
42.
just given the fact that we're not having those 2 positions filled, we can cut back on the overtime and bring someone in at a regular salary.
Well, I talked to Fred tonight that we need to talk about the budget. And if y'all spend any time on the budget, you know what kind of shape it's in. And the first 4 months is an absolute disaster. And I would encourage you, I like the idea of what you've approved, but to hire 2 officers past the 16, I think we ought to see where we are before we do that.
We typically will have the first half of the budget year coming in kind of slow in terms of revenue, and we'll see the tax dollars pick up.
Well, that's usually the case,
That
isn't it?
usually is the case.
I have a motion on the floor.
Greg, let me ask you something. Is it more important, though, to go after the 2 positions that are vacant right now
Yes, sir.
than it is, I mean, it's gonna be hard to fill those 2 positions, right?
Well, that depends on the reception that we get from this. You know, we could attract 1 person, we could attract 10. Like I said, this is gonna be the first that I know of for Johnston County. And I'm hoping that it creates a lot of interest, specifically from other agencies, you know, of officers that are wanting to come here and be part of us.
Right. If you had a full staff right now, though, you're still needing 2 more to help with some of this overtime and.
Yes, sir.
But if you had a full staff, would you still have to have 2 more right now?
Yes, sir. 16 is not enough to get done what we need to get done.
Okay.
let me just say this as well. We're gonna put this out to hire in the next week or so. You're still not probably gonna have an officer in place in January, in the month of January, because how long is it taking to get through state approvals and
About 3 weeks.
Yeah, so we
we have to advertise it for so many days, then you gotta do the interview process. They're a lot more in depth than what our normal processes are. And then once all that's done, they gotta pass psych evals and stuff. So you're looking at potentially getting somebody in here middle of February. So you gotta take that into account as well. And then if he does hire a BLET candidate and we only have the 2 positions, that candidate won't be able to start until June. So then he's only got 1 available position open without the approval of 2 new positions. He has 1, I don't know if you mentioned it, but he has 1 that's going out on FMLA in the first of the year. So he's already going to be short 2 because he doesn't have them hired, and then he's got 1 more going out. So I get where Jerry's coming from. The budget is looking a little rocky right now. But as far as general fund is concerned, I think that with seeing how things progress the few years I've been here, you will see a change in revenues come January. I think there's ways that we can cut back on other areas if we need to help the police department with their problems right now. If you want my opinion.
Well, I do have a motion on the floor. I don't know why everybody's overriding my motion here.
I haven't opened the door for the motion
I've
yet.
already made the motion. It's
No,
been
I
on the
didn't.
floor.
I have not. I didn't even know what he was talking about, because I can't hear him.
Well, I did have.
But what did you say, Fred?
I was bringing up the last part of the PowerPoint, which mentioned that we needed 2 additional positions that would bring us up to 18 officers in our police department, and as well as the $43,000 starting. 43.4 is where Smithfield is, and we need to be able to compete with them.
I thought 43 was Clayton. Yeah.
Excuse
Clayton.
me, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Clayton, yes, thank you.
So, am I wrong that about what percentage of our general revenue is protective services?
According to the audit, it was 49%.
So, just let me, walk with me on this.
That was 44.
If we have 200 houses that are built, isn't it about $1,000 in taxes is what an average house pays? So will we get about $200,000 in more revenue per year?
Depending on the tax value of the home, but.
So ish, ballpark in there, right? Okay. So that would mean 49% would be almost $100,000. We're talking about adding $85,000 to the budget with 2 new officers.
For next year, fully. Just won't see the full amount this year.
Yeah, so that makes sort of sense. To me, that seems about right.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's gonna, I'm sorry, I don't mean to step on here. In July, when we did the budget with with what we did in July, that put us at number 3. You see we're 5 months down the road, we're already back at number 5. We're not gonna keep up always, but I think what Greg said, what Greg's trying to do is get us at number 3 again and keep us there. Look at Wilson's Mills. Have y'all driven through there lately? They're not seeing tax dollars right now, but they know something we don't know, because they just did a drastic change in salaries. So what they're doing is getting ahead of the growth, because they know it's coming. They're extending 70, all that growth is coming. Amazon's coming to Smithfield, they're seeing that. So they're
You're
trying
right,
to get ahead.
but Wilson Mills is also the largest fire district in our whole county. Okay, they've got mega tax dollars coming in, and it's because they are a part of, everything's not coming out of Clayton.
Right.
Okay, the pharmaceuticals, they're handled by Wilson Mills. These companies, that's what I am saying, commercial growth pays taxes. 200 rooftops do not pay taxes. You look at what they bring in, you're looking at 2 to 4 children per household. You've got to have school for them. Our schools on this end of the county suck. Okay? I mean, your teachers out there will tell you, hey, we're so far behind. My grandkids are so far behind because we don't get the funding and you look at the county budget, you see where most of the money goes to then. It goes to schools, and then it goes to public safety.
Yeah, and you're right, but I do think growth is coming our way. You got Berry, you've got some stuff going on at Hamlin, you got, I mean, not just Berry Plastics in itself, but you got some other stuff going on Chicopee. It's coming. I think we have to decide if we're gonna try to get ahead of it, or if we're gonna we're just gonna follow it. And I think this is gonna get us a little bit ahead of next year. I think either way you look at it, you're gonna have to do it now, or we're gonna have to do it in July.
You're right, but people are complaining about, well, Benson's tax rate is so high. Well, the reason it is as high as it is because we don't have the commercial structure that Clayton and Smithfield and Wilson Mills even. Wilson Mills was a podunk little department that had nothing, and look at them now.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was brought in by $500,000 houses and commercial, and look, what we could do with a Bayer or Johnson & Johnson or even a Amazon.
Yeah.
And I think it is coming. But that's where our zoning and everything else has to come in. We've got to look at commercial, and I know of several things that are good for this town that are coming in.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that, but I don't want to compare, say, Wilson Mills, well, they're paying this, and look at them. Well, I know where they're getting their tax base.
Yeah.
I know what we're paying, and Wilson Mills is not paying that. They're paying a lower tax base for what they have because they've got more product paying in taxes, so the tax base is not as high. Yeah, we've got to do something, but I'm telling you, we're sucking hind tit. If we go up to $45,000 right here, I'm all for that, but we've got to afford it. Do we go up on water and sewer rates? Do we go up? This money and
But keep in
funds.
mind, you can't use water and sewer rates to pay police.
Yeah.
Well, Fred is the one that made the suggestion, and he's responsible for the budget. So I will entertain your motion to approve what Fred said. Any other discussion?
Hold on a minute, what did you
Can we
say?
repeat
But
it?
I know the two officers, and what else?
And the $43,000 salary.
Now you talking about the $43,000 interest salary, then everybody else's salary's gotta be adjusted.
Adjusted 5.
So is that
That's
already
in the
in too?
proposal. That's already in the proposal.
It's all
But it,
1,
It's
2,
already
and
in
3
there.
were approved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about we're going now $2,000 more higher, then it looks like to me
yeah.
the upper salaries has gotta be redone too.
Yeah, everybody would have to be adjusted
Yeah.
accordingly.
But now, I'm not clear on that. Why would everybody have to? Now, I'm in the school system, they don't
Because
do
you're
it
gonna
like
start
that.
running into compression.
I can't help that. It does not happen like that. No, it does not happen like that.
We would be bringing new officers in, making.
I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, I understand what you're saying. I'm all in favor of that. But now, when it comes down to everybody getting an increase, it don't happen everywhere like that.
Yeah, but there will be people brand new coming in that making more money than somebody been here for weeks and months.
Well, we might have to.
So
do
as
things.
as
That's
we
why we just-
as
It's
was
$10,000 is what it costs you.
In the three things we just approved increasing the starting salary. And then we approved the 5% increase on the other officers, that way it
Correct.
corrects that.
Right.
so
So if we're gonna go to 43, then another adjustment's gonna have to be done on that 5% we just did.
I will withdraw
I'm
that
all
request for
confused
the
then.
43 because I think we've done well
Sit down.
getting started.
just with the police.
We could do better.
I'm telling you now.
I'll grant that. But I don't have the figures to be able to tell you that we could do it and do it well. We'll see that we can make our way down through June. We can at least get the other 2 to make it 18 officers, and we'll go from there.
Now, I'm all, let me just say this, I'm all for the 43, but I just wanna make sure the ones that we got, don't
Understood.
get angry because you're putting them right there.
Understood. We don't have that figure for you tonight.
You might lose more than you
Yeah,
gain.
Yeah.
they could be walking the ones that we need to see.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Me too.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Real quick, this is not a gravity, it's just been
You
debated
voted
here
for
by the board, but,
the two
and I
positions.
don't, I apologize, it's not in your board packet, as is something to at least consider in all of this. I think the easiest way to handle it, well, we've got a proposed contract with, these new hires that you talked about bringing on with these measures that you've approved tonight. Greg and I worked on that draft. I don't think you have it in your packet. The easiest thing, if you want, is to just make a motion and approve Greg and I to develop a contract for, what it is it's for how they're gonna get paid this bonus that you've approved, and then also the terms of repayment if they leave, like Greg was talking about in his PowerPoint. They need to sign an agreement, a contract to that effect. I've got one here. I don't have enough to pass out to everybody, so if you just want to give Greg and I the authority, and I can send it out to the board to review. That way he can go ahead and get on some of this recruitment. If you get somebody in here between now and the next meeting, we don't have to come back in here and wait for y'all to approve the agreement. Sort of a housekeeping thing.
Are you ready for the motion?
I know this is kind of just spitballing. I was thinking about the $11,000. That's really shocking. Just, maybe this is stupid and I'll laugh and I'll see it. What if we had them, we co-sign with them on a loan for $11,000 and we pay that loan until they quit and then they pay the rest of the loan?
I think that breaks the law. Yeah, I think the signing of a loan with them would.
Because it would work.
Yeah, it might be a great idea, but for the law.
That law, what are you doing
I
over
know.
there?
I will try to find a way around that, Commissioner Rayner, but I don't think you can do that.
You know, I don't think, I still think $11,000, you know, I ain't gonna pay back. I ain't got it. You know, I don't think anybody that you had to pay to go to VLDT school ain't got no $11,000.
Well, there's a practical reality of going into a contractual relationship in any situation where somebody has obligations to you, and then you say, well, what happens if they just say, well, do what you're gonna do about it? Well, you can, the law courts are open to all of us as individuals and as this town, but that does, I can go get you a judgment against them, that does not mean you're gonna necessarily collect on it.
It means it's very unlikely we'll collect on it.
Greg, at
But
what
you have that
point-
over their head.
At what point do these officers come on board? They cannot come on board and do anything for us and be paid for it before they finish BLT?
Not as a sworn officer. Now, they will be, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but they will be a full-time employee of the town.
So they're making a salary while we're sending them to school?
Yes, sir.
See?
See, in the past, it's been done where they've been hired as part-time employees.
Yeah.
When I came on board, I looked at it, that it doesn't comport with retirement, with the Affordable Care Act, a number of things.
Uh-huh.
So I did some digging, looking what other places are doing to kind of confirm my suspicions, and yeah, you need to hire them as a full-time employee. Benefits, retirement, all that. And when you hire these new officers at $41,000, you gotta put them in a car, you gotta pay benefits, so it's just not.
Okay.
There's so much more behind the scenes that's going on that goes into.
Understand that, and I understand the other departments that are doing it. But you've got 3 applicants that come in and you decide on 2 of them and they're gonna go, we're sending them to school.
Correct.
Okay? $11,000. Let's say $11,000. Now, we're paying these new people right off the street a salary at that time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that salary starts out at what?
Greg, what'd you put, how much per hour? For BLT students?
One like 15?
Yeah, it was 15.
Yeah.
$15 an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're paying them around what, 25,000 a year if they're doing that plus the 11.
It's about 30.
And the only thing when they get through that they owe us is 24 months on the department, or they're going to have to pay back part of that 11,000. You're going to prorate the 11,000, right?
Yeah.
They're not paying back their salary.
No, they are. Salary is included in that.
Salary's included in that.
Let me double down on stupid.
Okay.
So, what if I still think it's a great idea to have them take out the loan and we tell them instead of co-signing, we'll pay that, we'll reimburse them as long as they're here, for their monthly payment.
Reimburse the loan payment?
Mhm.
So they go borrow the money to go to BLET, and we reimburse them?
Pay them their monthly
Possible.
costs.
It's similar to what we do with employees to reimburse, to tuition reimbursement program.
Then we don't have to chase their $11,000. They owe them, they don't owe us.
I think you might can do it. I have to look into it a little more, but I think, I'm not, you're not co-signing a loan with them, but if they go get the loan, sooner they can qualify for some kind of loan.
I'll make a motion.
Now we're banking.
How old do you have to be to go through BLET? 18?
You have to be 20 and a half.
20 and a half?
And I'll say this about the training, like I said, it's not my first choice because it ties up a position that we really need to help. But having said that, I would rather be shorthanded than make a bad hire. We've sent 4 people through BLET so far, and we've had 1 not graduate. So we're pretty selective on who we send.
And out of the 3 out of 4 that you've sent, how many of those have we still retained?
Right now, we have 1.
1.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, that's what I said, we've got to do something, but it's a Band-Aid until somebody else raises their price. You have got officers that you could get in this town if they would apply and they would be in this town.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have got officers that are passing through, and for $10,000 a year, they're gone, just like that. I mean, they're looking to dollar.
That's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, let me get one thing straight, though. We're going to hire on a new one. We're going to send him to school.
Okay.
He is not a part-time, he's a full-time employee. Now, what can he do?
He can't really do much for us unless he's sworn.
Okay, he can't do
Now,
it.
what we could do.
What does he get then?
What we've done in the
You don't
past.
give him a gun, you don't
no,
give him a rifle,
no.
you don't give him a car to drive.
No, he is in no way affiliated as a police officer. He can't be.
He's basically being paid to go to school.
What we did in the past is animal control.
Yeah.
We put them chasing dogs. It's in the past. If they're not in class, they're chasing dogs.
How did that work out for you?
He was a really good employee.
Good employee.
Unfortunately, he was the one that couldn't graduate, but he was an excellent employee.
I believe I know. Is he the
All
one
right.
that comes
Okay.
He the one that comes from the law?
All right,
Let's find out how
come
we're
to
gonna
order.
do it. Yeah, I'm all for the 18. We just got to figure out how to do it.
Just as a housekeeping measure, y'all have approved all of this already. We need an agreement with these officers. The board needs to approve the written contract. I've got a draft. I don't like springing things on y'all. If you want to go ahead and, I think, make a motion to allow Greg and I to formulate this document subject to the approval of the town manager. That way we've got something that the board has approved. You want to delegate that to us? Or?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
How many
You,
pages
Greg.
is it?
Substantively, Jerry, it is about 2.5. There's a notary page on the back, so.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion?
I have one suggestion. Can we just try this for maybe 12, 24 months and not make it permanent, just to see how it works?
You talking about the bonus?
The recruitment proposal.
We'll know probably in
In 3 months.
6 months.
You know that soon.
I think we'll know by the budget season.
Okay.
Yeah, if it works, it'll work pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And you're not bound it up, if
Okay.
you approve something tonight, that 6 months from now, or 12 months from now, you can't go and say, this is not a program that's working.
Yeah.
We need to go a different direction. Or part of it's working great, part of it is completely waste. We need to get rid of the bad part and keep it good. You
Well,
know?
I think with that, then it should be a continuous, planning
Yes, exactly.
from now until July.
Yeah.
Cause
And
that's what I'm
beyond.
gonna be basing my facts on, in July.
And beyond.
All in favor,
Okay.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Percy. His
Nobody
title,
bring up nothing else now.
if I may, just to back up a little bit, Chief Percy brought us a PowerPoint that was titled Recruiting in 2022 and Beyond. So we will be doing some planning as far as that's concerned. Thank you.
Okay, town manager.
Thank you. With that segue, I'd like to go back a little bit and to thank the department heads and especially our finance director for a very clean audit report. That was no small feat, especially during the course of the pandemic. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the pictures that you have at your desk that Loretta asked me to share with you in her absence. She will not be here this evening. 9 adorable North Carolina towns that feel like a Hallmark Christmas movie is the title of this document. Benson is listed here as number 5 of the 9, and I'd like to read a little bit of that into the record, if I may. The charming town of Benson, located in Johnston County, has a happy Hallmark-like vibe that begins on Main Street and radiates outward. The Southern Vintage Christmas Market in late November kicks off the festivities, offering locally produced items to give folks a head start on their holiday shopping. If that doesn't get the Christmas juices flowing, Christmas on Main, a festive parade featuring special shopping opportunities and a tree lighting event surely will. You'll see on the next page where it says a few miles outside Benson, Meadow Light, the largest and oldest Christmas light show in eastern North Carolina, spreads Christmas cheer over 30 acres. More than 8,000 lights illuminate the family-owned and operated property, which offers a train ride, a carousel, and photo ops with Santa. Here's a pro tip for you. The Old Country Store, one of the largest of its kind in the state, carries over 300 varieties of Christmas candy and old-fashioned treats. And it's exciting to have Benson to be listed among those other 9 towns. We won't even mention who they are because Benson's the bright light there. I also like to bring to your attention the agreement with VC3 that I have at your desk. I had sent that out earlier. This is a Voice Advantage work order that extends our contract that was initially entered into during 2016. The contract for phone service is due at the end of April of 2022. But if we can go ahead and sign off on this now, we will have a 25% savings that would begin in January. The savings would be from $1,581 per month down to $1,182, if I remember correctly, those numbers. And so we find that our phone service and later on our internet service will have to be updated as well. Kevin, who is with, he's the virtual CIO there at VC3, prepared the contract, and that would sync up our terms with the fiscal year if we sign it this month. If you're not comfortable with doing that since you got this so late, then he can prorate that for us and we can begin the savings at that point.
Why didn't we put this on the agenda?
Because Fred Nelson had a brain fart, and it took him a little time to remember that we needed to bring this on.
And it is gonna save money?
It is going to save money.
Well, anything
Yeah, but
that's
what
gonna
do we
save
lose
money.
for it? Now, you don't,
We don't
these
lose
companies don't
anything.
give you away.
We're not losing anything as
I
far
mean,
as.
we'd like to have the opportunity to read the thing. When is it due? When we got to have it back?
I took a look at it. Basically, we're just updating our contract with them. We're not losing anything. We're gaining the 25% savings by doing it early. They had some improvements in their phone system since this was first entered into in 2016, so they're able to give us a bit of a discount heading out. I think you felt comfortable with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with the language in it. I don't, the background, let Fred speak to that because I don't know exactly where it's coming from. I do went and looked at my notes on the VC3 Master Service Agreement contract that was passed in 16, so we're in business with them already anyway. This is a work order that incorporates the terms of the original agreement anyhow, and I was fine that you've already, this board, a different version of this board back in 2016 passed the original agreement to go in business with VC3. There's nothing in this that concerns me as far as the language. I don't know what harm or detriment you're talking about might be in entering into a new agreement with them. Fred's looked at it and said that it's got savings in it, so the prices are what they are. I've not really looked at it enough to.
Kim, have you seen this?
I missed the meeting where they did the majority of the talking about it, but, I mean, to me, it's VC3. We're kind of locked in with their product, otherwise we'd have to change, so if they're offering 25%.
What do you know about what we're losing or
I
gaining?
don't think, I mean, I agree with Fred, I don't think we're losing anything. It's gonna be the same service that we've had. There's just a savings if we go ahead and renew now.
What is the service?
They
So-
do
Our phones and computers or phone service?
It's phones and computers. They do, it's our computers and this is theirs. So it's phones and computers. And then they help manage IT, they help manage, they have all of our servers, all of our information is off-site with their servers. We don't have servers in the building anymore. And then, they help manage like CenturyLink and Spectrum contracts.
So we don't have another company, they do it all.
They do it all. We obviously pay for internet through Spectrum and CenturyLink, but they help negotiate prices on that for us.
Do we get good service from them? I mean, that's what,
We do.
VC3 is, as a whole, some of my non-technical department heads may disagree with me, but, as a whole, they give us really good service. I mean, they're very responsive when we call, if we have an issue. You know that just from when I've had to call for you. You know, very polite, very professional people to deal with, so. I mean, the alternative is we'd have to get all new equipment as well.
well, you don't want to do that.
If I can,
We don't want to put our foot in the bucket with, you know what in it.
if I can address something in terms of the service they give us, we have tickets that we fill out with them when we have internet or telephone problems. And most incidents during the course of the last reporting period, which is last month, were responded to immediately, while a small number of them took 47 to 84 minutes. Most incidents were resolved in 2 hours or less, with a small number taking 3 to 10 business hours. The 9 satisfactory survey responses that they get were positive, with a healthy 26% response rate from us as the customer. And so we find that we were served very well by VC3.
Fred, this is a budgeted item, right?
It is.
Yes, sir.
And we're saving money.
And it's a yearly contract or a 3-year or what?
66 months.
Yeah, the original was a 5-year contract, so this is 66 months. It's lining us up with our budget year, with our fiscal year.
5.5 years.
This is just 6 months?
66.
66.
No,
He's basically
5 years.
5 years.
5 years. I make a motion, we,
I already got a motion on the floor.
okay, whatever.
We're ready to roll.
Are you for it or against?
All in
I'm
favor,
for
say
it.
aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We also have December 17th coming up, where our Christmas drive-through for the staff. Luncheon will be at 12 noon, and all non-emergency town facilities closing at 12. December 23rd, 24th, and 27th, all non-emergency town facilities will be closed for Christmas. December 31st, again, all non-emergency town facilities closed for New Year's Day. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Ike?
I've got one thing. So staff asked me to bring this up to my time. Something else is a housekeeping measure. I've said that a bunch tonight. I guess everything's housekeeping to a certain extent, right? But so Johnson County Partnership for Children leases the portion of the building. Used to have a little Shooting Star Bread in it. They've leased that since 2016. So 5 years. What we've been doing with them is basically year-to-year leases. Those leases start January 1st and they go through December 31st. One year we didn't re-up with them and we just had a month-to-month lease. Then we caught back up in 2018. Their lease expires the end of the month. What we've done, I think, the last 3 years is actually renew their lease in January. So, I mean, you don't have to take this up right now. You can. There's no harm, legally speaking, if they hold over and we reapprove that in January. But in any event, if you see fit, this doesn't change any of the terms. This is pretty much the same lease extension that I've drafted the last 5 years. Their rent is $700 a month. I think that kind of goes towards covering their utilities. That was the original foundation of it anyway. That their rent was just going to more or less cover what.
Is there any kind of lease on the utilities? I mean, it said they paid rent on the building, but there was some average utility bill charge.
So their average utility bill when we originally did this in 2016 was about $700 a month, and that's what the board at that time said. Well, if you'll pay about what your utilities are every month, what you use in power as rent, then we'll charge you that as a rent payment every month. So
is it still doing about the same?
I would have to go back and look. So you don't have to approve this tonight. We can do it in January, but we need to at least get it on your radar. And I can go back and get our average.
Now, we met over there at that building and went through it, and there is gonna be a lot of money that's gotta be sunk into it. I'm talking about $250,000 just in heating and air. There's a lot that's gotta be done.
Yeah.
So, and we were talking about different options with that building.
Yeah, we really need to look at some grant opportunities. That was a conversation we had a couple months back. If we're going to continue to have Partnership for Children in that building and the tutoring program, we're going to have to put some work into it for sure.
Because I think where they're at, there's gonna be have heating and air units replaced.
Yeah.
So that's another thing before we go looking at lease, how much money we're gonna have to spend, because it's gonna be a lot.
Is this for a year?
For 1 year. That's what you've been doing since 2016. For 5 years, you've been doing year extensions. This doesn't change anything about the original. Like Kim and I talked about this earlier today. If there's concerns that the board has, I would suggest you don't approve the extension tonight. The original lease term specifically states that, and all the extensions as well say this. If they stay in after the 1st of January, they're just in a month-to-month tenancy, paying $700 a month. So if the board has concerns about the condition of the building and how far out you want to extend them in that space and what that may cost, because as landlord you have responsibilities to lease them a facility that they can use and all of that, I would suggest you maybe wait and let would be Kim and Fred present, maybe Tim too. I might have him some work to do on that as well. Look at what we're actually got going on over there before you extend it.
Let's wait till next.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we have studied that or table it until the next meeting.
Very good.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Max,
Well, I've got one thing, and I don't know if this is proper to say it, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. You know, we've danced around this money we're getting. I wanna state that my hope and my expectation is it's gonna change Benson for 100 years. That this thing is changing. And I wanna recognize our mayor who had the Christmas ornaments to ask for the money. And I wanna appreciate the politicians around us and the relationship we have with them that got that money for us. I think they should be publicly recognized and thanked.
I love them.
Including the one who's here tonight.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to all the town employees. Thank you for a phenomenal year, all the ups and downs with COVID and everything. It is truly appreciated, and I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Cassandra.
Yes, I would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thanks for all that you do for the town, and we hope going forward we will have a great 2022.
Maxine.
I would just like to say that, first of all, congratulations on the audit. I think that was a plus. I would like to wish the town employees and everyone a Merry Christmas a very happy new year, and hope you and your family be safe throughout the holidays.
Okay, Will?
Haven't been here long enough to.
Say something and let's move on.
Okay. Merry Christmas to all the town employees, and I'm back.
First of all, I'd say that I really am happy Will is back. He was the one that gave me all the training, so if I screwed something up, it was because
Oh,
of him.
yeah, blame it on me.
We've got the opportunity of a lifetime in front of us. And, you know, we talk about departments, but the department heads are really important to us. And I know that there's been times when we didn't think things were going so well, and they were going much better than we thought. And there's two things I want everybody to think about through this holiday season. The reputation of this board is a direct relationship to what the relationship the town of Benson has with their community. And that's always important, inside and outside town hall, to look at building a new town hall and getting rid of this building. The same thing applies to Parks and Rec. That building is falling down around them too, and there's a lot of things we can do to combine to really make the operation of the town work much better. And I think we really need to be thinking strongly about that. And he brought up the building over there. That building, we need somebody to look at it and price it out as tear it down costs so much and rebuilding it or remodeling that. And we got to get all that done. So the $22 million we got don't go towards any of that. But there is money available, and if this board started talking seriously about doing just what I just said, then I'll get on the hobby horse and start working on trying to get some money to build a new town hall. But I gotta have everybody's blessing before I start doing that. So I appreciate everything that everybody has done in cooperation.
Mayor,
The guy that wishes I would leave him alone, I just can't, because he is an absolute, has been a soulmate with me for this year. And that's to Tim, and I hold him up because he's special, but the department heads have done a yeoman's job and getting done what we need to do, and I appreciate the attendance of the board and what they've done, and I appreciate Ms. Thornton for putting up with some of the stuff. So thanks all of you for what you've done, and working together we can make this town a lot better than it is today. Any other thing needs to come up, Fred? You started to say something.
yes, you touched on it a little bit, Mayor, when you mentioned Tim. I wanted to especially highlight Tim Robbins as our Utilities Director. We have a bright and shining star in that young man. He knows the language, he knows the words to use, the hands to shake, etc. The things to put down on paper that help the mayor's push to make sure that we were considered seriously for some funding to take care of infrastructure, etc. And that's not to put down anybody else, but to certainly let you all know that he does a fantastic job. I do appreciate working with all of you, with all of the town employees, etc. And I look forward to seeing them take their half day off at the end of the week.
I want to close with this one thing. I go to the county commissioners meeting on a regular basis, and all I do is stand up and say, I'm from Benson. And let me tell you how to get there. You go out and you turn left and you go to I-95 and you get to exit 79, you get off and you go down Main Street, you're in Benson. If you don't know how to get to 95, then go to 301. Go through 4 Oaks, Benson, and when you get to Main Street, turn left and you're in town. We invite you to come anytime that you can. Well, there's one thing that's in between that, and that is the newspaper. It's news and review. And we like to have equal coverage for Benson like 4 Oaks, because they're on the way from Smithfield to Benson. So thank you for what you do, Mr. Newspaper, but give us equal time. I understand a motion to adjourn.
And I'll make that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Y'all have a nice Christmas, all of you. And New Year.
Thank you, honey. Honey, it was, I got so many notes.